Welcome to Sankalan, 5 minutes with Pradeep. So in this episode of Sankalan, I'll be giving some tips on international travel. The first episode, I gave travel tips for domestic travel within India. But there is some difference. The first requirement is the visa requirement for the destination country. You must know the visa requirement, validity of the visa required, and the validity of the passport required. Most of the countries expect that your passport should be valid for more than 6 months from the time you land in that country. So make sure that your passport is valid for more than 6 months. You have a right visa. I know one very senior person in my company. He was a US citizen and he traveled all the way from US to India. On Indian arrival at the immigration counter, he was stopped because he did not have the Indian visa. As a US citizen, he was traveling almost everywhere without any visa requirement. He had the US passport that was enough for him to travel everywhere. But that was not the case for him in India. He was supposed to have Indian visa. He was denied the entry in the country and he was sent back from the airport. The second thing also to keep in mind, visa on arrival, there are certain requirements. I will give one example. I was at Bangkok airport and I was waiting in the queue for my visa on arrival. I saw one guy getting the visa denied because the immigration officer was asking for $500 in cash to be shown. And the guy said, I'm going to meet my relative who is just waiting outside. I don't need money. But he was denied the visa because the requirement was $500 in cash to be shown at the visa counter. So know your visa requirement very well in advance where you are going. Sometimes even doing the transit, you have to be very careful because when you are transiting from one terminal to the other terminal, when you must know the transit requirement as well. Most of the time you don't need the transit visa because you're not going out of the airport. But be careful because by chance if you step out while going from one terminal to the another terminal, then you can't come back because you don't have the visa for that transiting country. Is second thing. The other most important thing to keep in mind, don't carry something in your bag which you can't explain. Either any medicine given by someone or any food given by someone, don't carry. Once I was at Chicago airport and I saw one person struggling while passing through the counter, the immigration counter, because his bag had something on which it was written gunpowder. I don't know due to what reason his bag was opened, but when they opened the bag, they found a packet written gunpowder. And gunpowder is something very common, powder or a eatable powder in Andhra Pradesh or in most part of South India, which people eat mixing with rice or making chutney. But gunpowder, you can imagine what it can have when you are traveling in US. So I have to step in and explain the guy that this is not really a gunpowder. It is just a table powder which locally in India is called gunpowder. Right? And he was supposed to eat, I was supposed to eat. And he ate because I was sure that it is not something a gunpowder. So make sure that you don't carry something which you can't explain. Third thing to keep in mind is, know the local culture where you are going. Because you are in some country, let us say Muslim countries, they have some certain rules and regulations. It is not bad or good. It is just the culture they have. And if you don't know the culture, you might land up into trouble. When you are in a Muslim country and during Ramzan, you may not get food or water during the daytime. That is the law of the country. There is nothing wrong. That is what it is required to be followed there. So make sure you know the rules and regulations and the custom of the country where you are going in. I have also experienced struggling for my credit card. I have seen some people coming from US to India, or I going from here to other country, and the credit card didn't work. Because in India we have the PIN, authentication PIN, and in most of the European country or in US they don't have the authentication PIN. So when you are using the credit card, it may not work. I know one of my friend, he came to India and he hosted a lavish party for us. When he gave the credit card to pay the bill, a huge amount, and the credit card was denied because his card was from US without authentication, and that was not working in India. So make sure that you have checked your credit card, you have called your credit card guy to make sure that where you are going it must work, or otherwise you have some contingency plan to overcome this. Other thing is also important to know that you might be having a good credit card working in India, but it may not work sometime because you have not enabled it for international use, or you have enabled it for a very small amount and that amount gets exhausted. So you may not be even knowing that what happened. I had once $1,000 bill, $1,000 bill in US, and my card was not really enabled for that amount. So I struggled. Finally, I found that, it's not because the card limit, because I have not enabled the international travel and I have not enhanced the limit for international usage. Other important thing to keep in mind, that sometime you will be asked to produce something extra while passing through immigration, some proof, or if your name resembles or have some commonality with some name which is banned or which is under the watch list in that country, you may be asked to go for an extra verification, and it may take sometime hours. I remember one of my friend got caught in US and I have to wait outside almost 3 hours. But finally you will be relieved. You will be asked to go out, but your phone will be taken. You will not be allowed to contact. So make sure that before they ask you to switch off your phone, you make a call or send a WhatsApp from the airport that you are going through an extra check. It might take hours, but nothing to panic. Always have 1 or 2 local phone numbers in case you know some friends for contacting them in any emergency. One more thing to keep in mind is that when you are booking a ticket for traveling domestically in US or in some part of Europe, and you're booking the ticket from India by using Indian credit card or giving your passport number in the ticket, you cannot web check-in in US or some part of Europe because you have booked the ticket from India and your passport has to be verified. So you have to go quite early at the airport. I know once very recently I was traveling in US and my ticket was booked from India. When I tried web check-in, it did not work. I have to go to airport and I have to stand in a long queue. It took at least more than an hour and a half for me to reach to the counter. Finally, the lady verified my passport and issued me the boarding pass. Then I went for the check-in, the baggage, which again took a lot of time. So I was almost about to miss my flight. So be careful when you are going from India and booking your ticket for traveling within US and booking from India. You will not be allowed to have the web check-in. So keep these few very simple tips while traveling outside India. It will surely be helpful. Thank you so much. In case you have any comment, please write in the comment box and I will be glad to respond. Thank you.